Gita Dhyana. You have it?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness on us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows, the milker is the cowherd boy Krishna, Arjuna is the calf, people of purified intellect are the drinkers, the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. And so when she says, this means that with the Lord's grace, nothing is impossible.
It was 1/3, actually. 2/3, right?
No, 2/3. Oh yeah, it goes, sorry. I'm sorry.
Half.
It was on 1/3 and it goes on 1/2, right?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good recovery, appreciate that. Okay. So for the householder, and householder really refers to anyone in the world with a duty, anyone in the world with a duty. We can call householder, it's in the Indian tradition, in the Vedic tradition, there are the 4 ashramas. And the meaning of that ashrama is not really different from the meaning of ashram here. So traditionally, this renunciation of outer duties is in the 4th quarter of the life. So the ashramas, traditional ashramas, and when Mataji returned, she could speak to it for a moment, but the traditional ashramas are the first, and it's seen in 100 years, 100-year life. So we think the lifespan has been going up all this time. So in the 100-year life, first 25 years are student, called brahmachari. So the student learns to control themselves. They learn to, this is the idea, to focus, learns to focus, to learn one's duty, to develop the skills, the craft, the trade in order to do one's duty, to learn how to control one's mind, and so how to make decisions. We've discussed some in the householder, so many different modern ideas, but there's a time that we have in our growth. Of course, we're not this body. We're not the baby body. We're not the grown-up body. We're neither of them. But there's a time in our growth where we're learning how to make decisions, and of course the parent is so vitally important in that, in terms of observing, guiding, setting standards, and all of this. And then 25 to 50 is the time when we leave the home and we establish a new home with a mate and have children of ourselves and help those children to grow. And then 50 to 75 is seen as the forest dweller time. Now the children are off, no longer living at home, no longer under the same roof, and now during that time we unwind, get rid of our possessions, live more simply, pick up spiritual pursuits, start very serious study of Vedanta. This is the traditional, very serious study of Vedanta, nature of truth. Become devotees, as it were, during that time. And the last 25 years are the letting go of all of the physical responsibility, what we consider to be renunciation in the world. We have an idea that to renounce means to renounce my job, renounce my family, to run away from the things I don't like. So to renounce that, I can keep the things I like, but the things I don't like, I don't want to keep. So I will renounce those. It's kind of like when we start, we're in Katha Upanishad, and it's like the father, the priest, who renounces only the stuff that's of no value to him. But that real renunciation is seen as the last 25 years. And that's the time of really actively going within. But until then, Rajas is the thing that is up and active, up and doing. But here Lord Krishna is speaking of how to find that peace or that centered place or God, whatever word we use, in the duty, when engaged in the duty, right? So the parent might imagine that when the child grows up and is off to school and they're living on their own, that's when I'll have happiness. That might be an idea, it might be some imagination. But of course it doesn't actually work that way. And I feel that everyone who has children, whose children have left home, would testify to that. Right? It's not that happiness comes right away. The only way to experience that which we seek is to find it inside of us, which requires control. So here Lord Krishna is speaking of this, and it's very much, so very definitely for ashramites, for the family here, but really for everyone. How can I find what I'm seeking when I'm in the midst of my duty, when I'm in the midst of my activities? Okay, so we'll pick up. And because of my travels, we get bonus time. We get to go through some of the same sutras all over again. It's the ones we've gone through over the past 10 days, right? So we'll start back with we're still in third chapter. I saw that we made it to about 37, I think.
36.
36.
We finished 35.
Okay, very good. So we're back to 6. So you get bonus. We get to take a little bit more time together with these. 6 we had just read the day that I departed ashram. Whoever stills the body as if seated in meditation but mentally continues to think about sense objects is deluded and hypocrite. So the discussion that we've been having about this is that what we commonly think of as action is to be up and doing something, right? And what we commonly think of inaction is to be sitting down or lying down and not doing anything, right? And I remember that's the same idea that I had. So it's not, but Lord Krishna is trying to help us to see that that's not really action and inaction. What we want is inaction, it's true. What we want is peace. And peace would be equated with inaction, but he's teaching a deeper meaning of the word action and inaction, right? Do we want to take a shot at it? I know we've been in this, so who'd like to comment on what is it that he's suggesting when he says what is action and what is inaction?
In inaction, you'd be not contemplating personal desires while you're doing your duty.
In inaction. Okay, so you're saying in inaction, what Lord Krishna is saying is inaction looks like someone doing his or her duty, correct? But not for themselves, not for personal gain. How is it that looks like inaction? Where does that look like inaction?
Because my mind wouldn't, there's so much to think about if it's really, so I would be very active in the craving of what I need to have out of what I'm doing, and afraid that somebody's going to come screw up what I'm doing. There's a lot to roll over.
Very good. So first of all, Lord Krishna is defining action and inaction as taking place inside oneself. A little less, right? So, and this is what, when we're looking objectively, this is what we're forgetting. And it's amazing how we can forget this, because do we recognize that our happiness or our unhappiness is an inner state, not an outer state? Right, so we can catch that now, but then still the mind will picture something outer that will happen in order to lead to happiness. That's Maya.
Yeah.
That's a kind of craziness. We could only get there with a pill. With some poison pill that we took or something, because we actually get it. Right, we get it. We know that it's an inner state. But somehow we convolute and we imagine that some outer state will lead to some inner state. Right? If you shut up, I will be at peace. Like that. But Lord Krishna is teaching that that's not peace, right? And that happiness is an inner state, and who's in control of our inner state?
The intellect.
I am. Yeah, you said it, Kalyani. I know. I am. Are you in control of the outer state?
No.
No. But you are in control of the inner state, is it so? Inner state as opposed to interstate. Inner state as opposed to interstate. Okay. And the inner state is either peaceful or disturbed, is it so?
No.
Yeah. And it's not, do we each see, it's not necessarily related to what happens outside. There may be a relationship with what happens outside. So we may say that I feel less disturbed when no one is screaming at me. When no one is yelling at me, I feel less disturbed. When someone is yelling at me, I feel more disturbed. Is that nonviolent communication?
I guess so, yeah.
Right? Because we're just speaking of what happens and then the feeling that I experience. But is the disturbance really, the disturbance that we're experiencing, is it outside or inside?
Becomes both inside.
That's right, it's inside.
Yes.
It's inside. And that's really what we care about, isn't it? In other words, as we relate to happiness or fulfillment or whatever, it's the inner state that's determining it, it's not the outer state, correct?
Yeah.
So this is where it gets very interesting in terms of our projections. And again, Maya. Imagining that I will reach the preferred inner state through an alignment of the outer state, which I actually have no control over. So that makes us a victim, If I put the inner state, which I'm relying on in order to be happy, if I make the conjunction, the requirement that the inner state is a hostage to the outer state, right? Then I become a victim. That's what we call a victim, is it? Mataji? So then I have no ability to be happy, really, because I'm always dependent upon what's happening outside. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So what Lord Krishna is doing here is he's crystallizing this for us. He's trying to help us to get it and see it, that it's only the inner state that counts. And so to say that, and he gives the example of meditating, but it could be anything. But he's using the example of meditation because meditation implies what? It's an inner state, isn't it? It's not an outer state. So this is, again, when we apply this to our practices, we begin to use the word carefully, practicing meditation, not meditating. We say we're meditating, but of course we have no idea if someone else is meditating or not. We only know if I am. Right? But then in our conversation, we'll say they're meditating. We don't know. How do we know that?
I think we can feel if other people are meditating, and sometimes there's a room where people are not. Like I had the experience where people would be like looking at their phones in the meditation and things like that.
Yeah, but still they can be perfectly still, and you don't really know.
Yeah,
you don't really know. So Lord Krishna here, and it's essential in this understanding of karma yoga and the goal of karma yoga. He's turning it all around for us. He's turning it around. He's saying you say that you're meditating, you're sitting there with your hands still and your eyes not moving and all of this, but your mind is going. And so to say that you're meditating, you're a hypocrite. Like that. But really the purpose of this shloka related to the next, where he's teaching us karma yoga, is to help us to see that action is an inner state, not outer. Yes. And what's interesting, again, this Maya, what's so interesting is that we imagine, and this happens in ashram, by the way. It's a tough one. So we're imagining that inaction is what I want, even with the idea of retirement. I used to suffer from this, right? I used to visualize my happiness, victimhood. I used to visualize my happiness as being in the future when I retired. It's a very common thought, you know. And so we work, we slave for whatever, for our own stuff, really, ultimately, but we say the man or whatever we say. But we're slaving for our picture of our peace, which lies in the future at a time at which I've done what I had to do here, and I've put that pile of money aside, and now I don't have to work at that time. But of course we get to that time, and if we stop doing anything, invariably the physical death is just right around the corner, isn't it? So here Lord Krishna is telling us that first peace is here and now, happiness is here and now. Yes? What we're seeking, it's here and now. And so it's crazy that we imagine a time where we'll be happy, but we know that happiness is an inner state. So if we stop and really reflect on it, we see that my mind has to be in a state of inaction. And what does that look like? It means it looks like one-pointed. Right? Which means focused. This is why Swami Ramaswapananda, when he gave his simple little guidance on preparing for seated meditation, my dear mind, be alert, focused, and calm. So, and that's actually required for inaction. The mind has to be alert, but focused. Yes. And not distracted. And that's what really is meditation. It's an inner, and we can only know it inside. We could never know it outside. And our experience with it, until we actually are able to sit in a comfortable asana and have that mind where it is alert, but inwardly focused, and undisturbed. And then we experience this state of meditation. Until then, the experience that we have with meditation is just inactivity. It's only inactivity, right?
Yeah.
But we have it. And then but we only have it for some moments. Some of us will have it writing, some of us will have it reading, some of us will have it crocheting, some of us will have it playing sports. Some of us will have it listening to music, some of us will have it playing music. Some of us will have it on the battlefield. Afghanistan has been in the news the last couple of weeks and all of this, and the soldier will have it in a moment when the mind is focused on the enemy or that which is to be done or whatever. Then, so it really, and this is where this concept of action in inaction and inaction in action is coming from. Action in inaction, meaning not doing anything, sitting on the couch, lying down, sitting in an asana, but what's happening? Me. I need this, I need that, I need you to leave me alone. Close the door, don't open the door during meditation. Action in inaction. And inaction in action. When is my mind really focused? When do I get to experience? When my motives are selfless, yes, and I'm engaged in action. You experience that with the kids now and then, don't you? Yeah. Often. In fact, they keep you going so much that it's hard to even think about yourself, isn't it? So 7. So this is really core, essential to the teaching, that to find that stillness, that inner stillness, action is required. But it has to be, and this is going to the 2nd chapter, Lord Krishna said, yoga is equanimity of mind and what else? Skill in
action.
Highest teaching. Yoga is skill in action. And he's teaching here on how to reach that actionless state while acting physically. This is what he's teaching. And honestly, in coming to ashram, this is our greatest opportunity. We somehow will often consider karma yoga to be what I do in order to have practice of sadhana. I put in enough so that I don't feel guilty when I sit to meditate. But actually, karma yoga is and this is when Arjuna asked the question at the beginning of the chapter, says, I don't get it. I don't understand you. You say wisdom is higher than action. So why are you telling me then that I have to do this? And Lord Krishna says, it's for your own good, my dear. It's for your own good. Because actionless is reached only through action. Until the motives are completely purified. When there's no longer a little I to gratify, then meditation is constant. So when we sit for meditation, what's the purpose? To efface the little I. When we work, what is the purpose? To efface the little I. Right? It's the same purpose. Why would we do anything here? If we understand that happiness is an inner state and we understand what's causing non-happiness. Personal desires, personal motivations, all of this inner junk that's going on about me getting what I want and what I need and the way everybody's supposed to be in order for me to have it. right? Oh, so the teaching here is that that state is this state of constant action. My God, living with ourselves all the time and all of that stuff. So he says, my dear, knowledge is highest, but you're going to have to act to get to that state of actionlessness. And you're going to need to purify your motives. Right? You've got to be free of doing for the little I. And in being free of doing for the little I, then only this constant state of samadhi or meditation or happiness, fulfillment maybe is a better word, satisfaction is maybe a better word. Because even when we use the word happiness, we imagine something, well then I'll be happy all the time.
Right.
And Swami will say something that doesn't make any sense. Well, of course, you are happy all of the time. What do you mean? No, you are happiness. You are bliss. You are nandoham. You are bliss. So when you know that you are bliss, do you actually crave happiness every moment?
No.
If you know that you're carrying food with you all of the time, at what point do you stop craving food?
2 years ago.
Huh? So, okay, number 7. In order to excel, so now he gives the prescription, mentally control the senses, stop all personal attachments, and engage the body in karma yoga, selfless service. So this is the recipe he gives. He starts with mentally control the senses. So many ways to do. We have pratyahara, of course, in Raja Yoga. I feel like personally understanding the way it works here. We use the example, I think everybody's heard, and I was able to share it this past week, the croissant story about how when we sow an action, we reap a tendency. And then when we sow the tendency, when we feed that tendency, we reap a habit. And it's the little I habit. It's the little I habit. And then we see at some point, oh my goodness, that's what this came from. Right? I told myself it was innocent and it was meaningless and it didn't mean anything, that wasn't going to do anything, but now I see that it does. Right? So that's wisdom. That's knowledge. And asserting that knowledge in our relationships with the sense objects, then we assert, you shall not control me. Huh? And we bring the mind on board with this. You shall not control me. I shall not crave you. I shall not go there. Everything here, intent is the greatest power that we have. So with intention and with the power of will, otherwise the practice itself is meaningless, because without the intention and without the power of will, how long will you practice control of the senses? Only until something's very enticing. Right? So mentally control the senses, let go of all attachments. And attachments are to I and mine, me, my goal, my this, my that, my family, my... Let go of the attachments and engage the body in karma yoga, selfless service. Just a little commentary from Swami, and we'll close for the morning. That means Swamiji adds, that means the mind is totally in control, but he just allows his body to do certain acts for the sake of the actions themselves. And so we have evidence of this. We know what that looks like is washing dishes for the sake of washing dishes. If we've let go of the attachments, and if the senses are being controlled, then there's not something else more important to get to next. Is it so? So then we wash dishes for the sake of washing dishes, not for the sake of I get this done and I get to go sit. Right? Not in order to prove to somebody else or to show someone else or something like that. Simply, this is what is to be done right now, and to wash the dishes, I just wash the dishes. And if I'm not being distracted, by my own desires, by what someone says or what someone does, right? And that'll be the test for us in ashram. Somebody will say something, somebody will do something. Or somebody didn't do something. And then I have to go talk to them about what they didn't do, or I have to carry what they didn't do with me until I'm able to tell them, or maybe I have to tell Swami about it because he'll have to tell them. And look at what you have to carry for how long you have to carry it. And where is that peace of mind? So Ma is the only doer here. Krishna is the only doer. So what's in front of us is what we're dealing with.
Right.
And if we're able to have the senses controlled, we might not even be aware of what people are saying while we're washing dishes. Why do we need to be? Right? Why do we need to be aware of what someone didn't do? We're just washing the dishes. Right?
Yeah.
So some assertion comes up inside about, so-and-so didn't do this, didn't do that, whatever. Okay, but fine, well and good. But now are you washing dishes or are you thinking about what they didn't do? Right?
Yeah.
Which one are you doing? You're only doing one or the other.
You're thinking about it.
Yeah, you've immediately lost yourself. So controlling the senses and let go of all attachments. So attachments include expectations as well. Right? We don't, it's very hard for us to see it this way, but we see karma yoga, the opportunity for karma yoga, the opportunity to serve is an opportunity to be saved from ourselves. So the same little self that's asserting what somebody didn't do or did do or whatever. And I get it. But just see what's happening inside. See what's happening inside. And this is what Lord Krishna is preaching. And it's very pure, it's very direct, it's very clean. It's not, it's pretty darn straightforward. And it's helpful for us to see if we're able to be there or not. And of course the test will come in order to see if we're there or not.
And keep coming.
And they keep coming.
Many opportunities.
So when I say I'm a karma yogi, then the Lord says, okay, then let's see about this. I'll come in the form of Nika and I'll say this right now. See what that does. Or here, now I'll be Sita Devi, and now I'll be Narayana, and I'm going to scream. But it's all the one doing it. Like, okay, I'm going to help you out with your karma yoga project. I mean, we imagine that the battlefield, that Arjuna is in, which is someplace far away, and some horrible battle and all of that. That's him, and thank God I don't have to deal with that daily. No, I have to deal with that. Oh, God.
So I understand, the inner state. So you're in an inner state, and is it okay to remove yourself from situations that, people are yelling at you? Don't have to necessarily, say, visit your drunk mother who yells at you and does stuff, is it
Well,
okay to not put yourself, you know what I mean? Even
Depends
though
on-
if I can stay peaceful and calm while I'm there, but should I?
first of
Go
all,
there all the time.
understand that where you're wanting to be is a place of inner non-disturbance.
Mhm.
And outer action is required in order to reach the place of inner non-disturbance. And what does the inner non-disturbance look like? Well, it looks like the lack of things like judgment or anger or hatred or feeling of separation.
Acceptance.
It looks like a place of acceptance. So, and we could say now, my God, I can't stand it when my drunk mother yells at me. But what we see as the disturbance is an inner disturbance. It's not an outer disturbance. So then it becomes, right? And so we say, well, I don't want to submit myself to things that cause me to suffer. Well, this is yoga, you have to. The purpose of it is to be free of suffering, but that's not an outward state. That's an inward state. It only exists as an inner state. And it's also called self-realization or self-knowledge. Right? So anything happening outside is an opportunity to reach that inside. And the disturbance is not hers. She's disturbed, yeah. But you're not upset because she's disturbed. We get upset because she's disturbing me.
Which is a choice.
But she's not disturbing me.
Mhm.
I'm allowing myself to be disturbed.
So if you can stay peaceful within it, but your family's there and it's disturbing them.
Well, look at the motives, right? And you'll see something. You'll see something. So, and the guidance is don't do what is not your duty, but do what is your duty. So do you need to be around people that are that way? Well, you have to look at the duty to be able to answer that question.
Yes.
Is my responsibility here? Is this my dharma? Is this my family? Do I have some role that I'm supposed to be playing here? And if the answer to that is yes, then yeah, it's needful. And then it's an opportunity.
I think there's opportunity in it, and even like the householder book says, sure, go see those people because you want your kids and your family to say, oh, that's not how I want to be, and you learn from it too. I mean, is that helpful?
In a way, yeah, it is. But ideally not at the expense of the other person.
Right, yeah.
So, everyone makes their own choices here, and then our own choices will bear fruit. Paramahansa Yogananda, when he was asked the question of why is there evil in the world, why is there darkness, and he said there is darkness and there is light, both, so that you can choose. Which touches on what you've just shared. So again, it has to do with duty, and is it our duty? And I don't know. Based on what you've described, I don't know. But it's a question for you to be dealing with inside.
Mm-hmm.
But also recognize that it's helpful, very helpful for us to recognize what we're talking about is an inner state. The inner state is actually independent. It has to be independent of the outer experience. It has to be. Because as long as our inner state is disturbed by what happens outside, then I know that I'm not there yet. And it's fine to know that I'm not there yet. It's helpful. I might think I'm enlightened otherwise. But if I'm only enlightened when you guys leave me alone,
Nada.
then that's hypocrisy. Paramahansa Yogananda also says that the yogi must be still inner in the midst of crashing worlds.
Yes.
This time it's crashing world time.
Very much.
It's crashing world time. So we know what the inner state that we're talking about is. We said we all have experience with it. right? We've imagined it to be related to some outer, and there is some relationship. But also, and this is where, and I feel like we all have some experience with this at least, that when the inner state changes, after the change is firm, then the outer experiences change also.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, this one is, the masters will drum it in. There's only one doer here. You're not the doer. There's only one doer, and what is happening is for each of our own benefit in order to awaken from the dream, to be free of this Maya, to be free of this delusion. And so whatever is happening to us, there's some aspect within us that will say a problem, but there's some deeper aspect which is much closer to the truth of us, that knows it's an opportunity. Okay, we should close the final prayers now. Page 1. I was with the old books this past week, so please forgive me. 174. Okay, thank you. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarinam Orvairukhameva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarinam Orvairukhameva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivarinam Orvairukhameva Bandhanam Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashanto Makashit Dukhabhagave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. Bolo Satguru Shivananda Maharaj ki Jai. Bolo Saraswati Mahani ki Jai. For all of the masters of all the traditions. Jai. Okay, that's right.